What is going on, my Super Sandwiches? Ramsa here, and today we're discussing Chapter 19 of the Dragon Ball Super manga because it is vastly different from what just happened in an anime. Now, as far as what I'm talking about, I'm referring to the end to the Trunks arc. Toyotaro, who is basically in charge of doing the manga, is doing something completely different. Now, this is not the first time he did this, and to kind of break down the whole, well, what's canon question, which is probably going to flood this video, first and foremost, let's end the whole canon talk. It doesn't matter what's canon. Either you read the manga and that's canon to you, or you watch the anime and that's canon to you. It's kind of pointless to argue on what's canon at this point because there's so many different sources going on, especially with Dragon Ball Super. But to kind of break down the way it works is you have Toriyama, who's basically creating like these basic bullet points, kind of creating a story as to what's happening, and then he hands it off to Toyotaro and Toei. Toei, of course, creates the anime that we watch on a weekly basis, and then Toyotaro creates his manga chapters that he releases once a month. Now, this is not the first time that Toyotaro did this. Originally, the first time it happened in the Dragon Ball Super manga was actually in the last arc in the Hit vs. Goku fight. Now, to those who didn't read, I'll just do a quick recap. Basically, instead of seeing Kaioken Blue, which by the way was really epic, and I was a huge fan of that, instead of doing Kaioken Blue, Goku cycled through all his transformations all the way up to Super Saiyan Red. While it was cool to see Super Saiyan Red come back, he vastly underpowered Hit's abilities. Now, to be fair, Hit is kind of a broken character in Dragon Ball Super, especially after watching episode 71. Like, this man is OP, ridiculously OP. And what ended up happening is basically Toyotaro capped Hit's ability where he can only time skip someone as long as they're not that much stronger than him. And because Goku was so powerful, time skip didn't necessarily work on Goku, and the match didn't basically end the way it did in the anime. Now, while some people preferred that, I was a bigger fan of the anime, but the whole point is that was the first time that Toyotaro changed the story up massively or majorly as opposed to what we saw in the anime. I mean, from what we were reading in the last couple of months, the manga has always kind of had a couple things here and there that was different from the anime and vice versa. I think the manga was the first to actually reveal the Kibito Kai split into Supreme Kai and Kibito once again before we saw it in the anime, and of course later in the anime we saw the two split as well. So it kind of connected that way. But for the most part, the anime and the manga kind of have been doing their own thing, not changing anything majorly, but they had a couple of key differences here and there that didn't make a big deal. But now we're actually changing the story completely, and that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. Now, to kind of break it down, so this is actually their first time going into the future to fight Goku Black. As you guys remember, the way it worked was, originally what happened was Goku popped back in the past, he fought them, got sent back to the future, and then, it turned into one of the situations where Goku and the crew kept going back and forth between the future and the present, and every time they went to the future, they kept getting an ass beat, and then they came back to the past to, recuperate, figure out other strategies. But that doesn't seem to be happening here, at least not yet. This is their first time back into the future, and if you guys remember, what did Black do? He went Rose, and it was like, oh snap, this is basically like Super Saiyan Blue, but with a Rose aura. Like, this is his version of God Ki. But instead of doing that, Black busted out the Super Saiyan transformation, which we all wonder if he could do it, and yes, he can actually do it, apparently. Now, the problem with that is, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Super Saiyan Blue Goku is vastly more powerful than a Super Saiyan Goku Black. So, because remember, he's not Rose yet, he's just regular Super Saiyan, and he is also the kicker. When Vegeta was fighting him, he was all like, you know what, just fight me right now, go all out, and what does Goku Black do? He says, I can't yet. I can't transform into Rose, I can only do Super Saiyan. And then Vegeta proceeds to get his badass moment, which we saw in the anime, where he just started beating Black down. Now, it was pretty cool again, and he was, doing the same speech where it was like, the reason why he can't do this is because that doofus over there, Goku, spent, his entire life dedicated to that body and, kind of mastering and becoming stronger, and you can't just, steal that power away by just making the wish and taking his body. You have to earn it. Basically doing a similar speech that we saw in the anime, but of course, I'm a bigger fan of how he did in the anime for several reasons. Number one, it was badass watching Vegeta have that moment, and two, it just felt so epic. And on top of that, I'm more of a visual person where I like seeing the anime in motion as opposed to reading a manga. Although manga is still pretty cool because, it gives you a different perspective. But for the most part, I'm a bigger fan than anime, in which case I want to ask you the question, what do you guys like better, the Dragon Ball Super manga or the anime? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. Now, here's my first problem with the manga right now, or I guess my critique of it, is the fact that they turned Goku Black into pretty much, excuse my language, but he's a bitch. Goku Black was so badass in the anime. You guys remember the first time that Goku and Vegeta went to the future? What happened? Vegeta got stabbed. Like, he just beat them down like it was nothing, and they had to go back in the past and figure out, how to beat this crazy enemy. And the fact that they just step into the future and start beating them down like it was nothing, it was like, oh, well, this doesn't feel like a threat at all. Now, I will say this. The thing that makes the manga a little bit more harder to do than the anime is the fact that Toyotaro only gets to do this once a month in like a 20-page spread. And if the manga was like a weekly basis, like how Dragon Ball used to be back in the day, he probably would have a lot more time to actually focus on like the nitty-gritty details that made Dragon Ball what Dragon Ball was. But because he has such a limited amount of time and space, to basically tell the story that, first of all, he doesn't really get that much details for, it's a lot tougher to make it, make sense in a non-rushed way. And what I feel like the manga is going to fall into right now as far as problems is the fact that it's getting rushed itself, just like the anime did towards the end. So basically all you get for the first half of the manga is just Vegeta beat him down, which again is pretty badass, but again, I'm a bigger fan from watching the anime, and I like seeing it in anime as opposed to just reading the manga. It just doesn't feel as effective. Now, here is the one thing that I like that the manga did a lot better than the anime, and that was basically tracking down Zamasu and understanding what kind of person he was. As you guys remember, Zamasu was just, he was on something in the anime. Like, the entire time as you watch it, you're just thinking, man, this guy's a psychopath. How does Gowasu not see this? How does nobody realize that Zamasu's an asshole? And what they end up doing in the manga is Supreme Kai actually borrows a time ring, goes into the future, and sees all the evil crimes that Zamasu commits. Comes back, and just as he comes back, you got Beerus and Waste at Gowasu's planet, and Zamasu shows up, and it's like, oh, why is everybody here? Well, I just went to the future and I saw that you did quite a bit of, crazy crimes. You gotta go. To which, of course, Zamasu does what he did in the anime, and he just basically rebelled. He said this is all for justice, tries to attack, and of course, Beerus does probably one of the greatest moments I've seen Beerus do, and it's, of course, the infamous Hakai, and just destroys Zamasu right then and there. Now, again, this is something that they should have just done in the anime. Like, dude, you have the ability to see the future. You obviously see that, Gowasu obviously saw that Zamasu was insane and was just doing all these crazy thoughts and stuff, having all these crazy thoughts and everything. Like, if I was Gowasu, I would just check it out just to make sure and realize, oh, okay, Zamasu, he's got to go. And then in which case, I dealt with him. But instead, for some reason, he kept trusting him. And again, I'm not going to judge Gowasu completely because he just wanted to teach, I guess. He wanted Zamasu to see the light and then become the next Kao Shin. Whereas, obviously, Supreme Kai and Beerus were able to immediately see that he was kind of a dick, in which case he ended up getting destroyed. But ultimately, I kind of like how they, track down the fact that Zamasu was evil in the manga as opposed to the anime. If you guys remember in the anime, what they did is they just kind of watched and waited for Zamasu to do something evil, and the second they saw him kill Gowasu, we see the time rewind thing, and then they stopped him, and then that's how he got destroyed. I love the part right after that when they kill Zamasu, where Beerus is like, hey, Gowasu, next time you choose the wrong disciple, I'm going to destroy you. Well, I guess that would be kind of counterproductive. I can't do that because whole if you kill Supreme Kai's, the God's destruction dies too thing. But I will scold you. I like the little humor that they added in there. It fit really, really well. Well, anyways, after Zamasu got destroyed, we get into the part where Supreme Kai's all like, we have to go find Goku and Vegeta. I got something important to tell them. This is an emergency. And of course, what he's trying to tell them is the fact that Black is not acting on his own. He has a partner. Now, if you remember the way it happened in the anime, Zamasu just randomly interrupted, showed up, and then it was like a 2v2, which, by the way, that 2v2 fight is still one of my favorite moments in the Dragon Ball Super anime. Like, that was so well animated, the fight was intense, it was incredible. In fact, I gotta go watch that right after I'm done with the review. But what we end up getting in the manga, we get a flash forward to Vegeta getting ready to finish off Black. They basically tell him like, hey, this is weird. Trunks even says, this feels kind of odd. There's something different this time. To which Goku says, Vegeta, finish him off. And then right as he's about to fire the final flash, we see the immortal Zamasu make an appearance. He saves Black, he heals them, and then this is basically where the chapter ends, where they revealed that, there is another Zamasu, which we already knew was going to happen. Now, here's the kicker. First and foremost, we see Zamasu heal Black, which he wasn't able to do in, the anime. And two, it seems he might jump straight into the fusion. Now, when Zamasu first healed Black, my first thoughts were, I wonder if he's going to get a massive Zenkai boost, because you guys remember, Black was getting stronger and stronger with every single fight he had in the anime. But this time, he got Vegeta to literally beat the dog piss out of him, and then Zamasu shows up and gives him basically a sensu bean, basically, with his powers and heals him. I wonder if this is going to lead to him to get a huge power boost to the point where he basically goes Rose. But at the same time, Toyotaro has promised a massive change, and we might not even get to that at all. Which the first question I'm asking you guys is, if we don't see Rose in the manga, how do you guys feel about that? Do you like it, dislike it? Feel free to discuss down below. Now remember, there's only one chapter left to basically wrap up the story, and I know you can wrap up, I guess, the ending in literally one panel. So really, most of the next chapter, chapter 20, is going to be all fighting. So now the question is how are they going to finish it up? And we know that Vegeta was just basically added for fan service, so he has nothing really to do to it. So technically, they could cut that out. But then at the same time, for all we know, we could even see Gogeta pop up in the manga. Now, I mentioned this a few weeks ago where I was like, I think since, they announced that they're going to do something different in the manga, there's a possibility of instead of having Vegeta pop up, they show Gogeta, in which case it would make a lot more sense when they defuse. On top of that, he's not really vital to the story. He was just there for more fan service type of thing. It would be cool to see Gogeta show up. But at the same time, because they only have one chapter and they have to wrap it out really, really fast, I can't really tell what's going to happen at this point. And honestly, it's really hard to predict this right now. It's so hard to predict this. But the only problem I have now is even as Zamasu and Black fuse, how will they have power, basically. Because, like, the thing that made Rose so powerful is the fact that he was Goku's body, super powerful with the ability to go Super Saiyan Blue, just his version, which is called Super Saiyan Rose. But if he doesn't have that, then even though Zamasu and Black fuse, how would they have enough power to take out 3 Saiyans? If you remember in the anime, the entire time you have Black Zamasu just taking Goku and Vegeta down, and even Trunks, like it was nothing. But because we were lacking the Rose power now, how is that going to actually happen? I mean, we know Zamasu technically is immortal, but he didn't really have that much power to, to take down the warriors. The only reason why they were basically losing the entire time is because Zamasu and Black were so synced together. On top of that, they had a power boost that's what made it so powerful. But now we don't have that, so what's going to happen? Based on how they hinted it, I feel like what's going to happen next chapter is they'll jump immediately into the fusion. But I have a theory that because of how powerful Zamasu already is, because of his immortality, and the fact that Black has received a Zenkai boost, that they'll still kind of have the power of Rose. Just instead of having Rose, it'll be like the merged Zamasu white-haired Super Saiyan transformation. So I think that's what they're going to jump into immediately. And then from there, they'll have such a power boost that basically it'll be 1 versus 3, where merged Zamasu basically takes the entire match. Now, of course, we still also have to add the fact that the Trunks ends up getting the kill. On top of that, get the Omni King involved. So a lot can still happen, and I still feel like just for maybe a couple panels, they could bring someone like Gogeta back instead of introducing Vegito. And I think that'd be just a cool way to see the other fusion that everybody loves. Because at this point, I feel like we're kind of split halfway in the middle as far as what fusion we like better between Vegito and Gogeta. I mean, I've always been a Gogeta fan. I know some of you guys love Vegito. In fact, I want to ask you guys, which fusion are you a bigger fan of? I want you to hashtag Gogeta or Vegito down below. But ultimately, I guess we'll have to wait another month to see what's going to happen. So all I can do at this point is end the video right here and I guess leave the floor open for you guys to discuss what you think is going to happen. So feel free to do so of that right now. Now, as far as my final words on this, I can't say whether or not I like it or dislike it. What I don't like I said, is the fact that they are severely underpowering Black. And again, they did the same thing with Hit. Hit is so badass, yet in the manga, he's kind of a joke. And I never really liked that. But based on how this next chapter goes, it's going to determine whether I love this chapter or hate it. Or I guess love this ending or hate it. But for all we know, though, it might be a much better ending than the anime was, in which case, even though Black is severely underpowered right now, the ending can be so much better when it's revealed in a month. So all we can do at this point is just wait. But like I said, the one thing I don't like right now is the fact that Super Saiyan Rose isn't a thing yet. On top of that, Black is basically still just so weak that he can't really do anything. So it's kind of helpless. But yeah. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, what you guys think about Chapter 19. Again, I cannot link this because it's illegal, but if you were to look up on Google, you'll find Chapter 19 easily. So that's all I can say. I apologize. This is just how this works. So just look it up on Google, and you'll be able to read it yourself. It's already translated and everything. But for now, all we can do is wait. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on Chapter 19 down below. If you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like as well. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Ramsal, and I will see all you awesome Super Sandwiches in the comment section below. Peace.